The door burst open and she collapsed into his arms, blue lips, frozen tears, barely breathing. Liam O'Connell had seen death before, but never wearing a wedding dress. "Please," she whispered through chattering teeth, "don't send me back." Back where the blizzard screamed behind her like a living thing. He kicked the door shut and carried her to the fire, her body light as a ghost. Whatever had happened out there in that storm, she'd rather die than face it again. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and stay until the very end of this story. Comment below what city you're watching from so I can see how far this tale has traveled. Now let's begin. Liam didn't ask questions. There wasn't time. The woman wasn't just cold, she was dying. He stripped off her soaking cloak and wrapped her in blankets. Her fingers had gone white at the tips. Frostbite. He'd seen it take men's hands before. "Stay with me," he said. She didn't respond. Her eyes rolled back. He worked fast warm water, warm cloths, prayers. Around midnight, her eyes finally opened. Brown. Dark brown. "You're safe," he said. "You're in my cabin." She tried to sit up, failed. Her whole body shook. "Don't move yet." "Who are you?" "Liam O'Connell. I homestead here. Found you at my door 4 hours ago." A tear slid down her cheek. "I didn't think anyone would answer." "Well, someone did." He offered her warm broth. "Drink." She took it with trembling hands, spilling half. The broth brought color back to her face. "I'm Eleanor," she said. "Eleanor Vance." "What were you doing out there, Miss Vance?" Her face crumpled. "I was being married today, or I thought I was." Liam waited. "I came from Boston. Answered an advertisement. A wealthy rancher seeking a bride. Silas Blackwood. Perhaps you know him." Liam's jaw tightened. Everyone knew Blackwood. Rich, powerful, cruel. "I know him." "Then you understand." Eleanor laughed bitterly. "I had nothing left in Boston. My father died last year, left debts. When Mr. Blackwood's letter came promising a home security, I thought God had answered my prayers. What happened?" Eleanor stared into the fire. "The stage brought me to his ranch this morning. He took one look at me and said I wouldn't do. Too thin, too pale, not strong enough for ranch life. His exact words were, 'I need a wife who can work, not some delicate flower who'll wilt at the first hardship.'" The anger built in Liam's chest. "He sent you away in this weather." "His foreman gave me a horse and pointed toward town. But I'm not a skilled rider. The horse spooked, threw me." She touched the bruise at her temple. "I walked. I don't know for how long. Everything looked the same, white and wind and cold. I saw your light." "You nearly died." "I know." She met his eyes. "Thank you for opening your door." Eleanor's hand trembled around the cup. "When he looked at me, you know what I saw in his eyes? Nothing. Like I wasn't even human. Just disappointing inventory." She paused. "His foreman, the one who gave me the horse, he whispered something as I left. He said, 'You're the 4th one this year. The lucky one was the 3rd. She got on the stage before the storm hit." Liam's blood went cold. The 4th. Apparently Mr. Blackwood orders brides the way other men order cattle. If they don't meet his standards, he sends them back, or sends them out to die. That's murder. That's business, according to him. Eleanor set down the cup. "I'm sorry to burden you with this. As soon as the storm clears, I'll leave." "And go where?" She had no answer. "You'll stay until you're strong enough to travel. Until we figure out what comes next." Eleanor shook her head. "Mr. O'Connell, this isn't your problem. It became my problem when you knocked on my door. Nobody deserves to be thrown away like trash." He added wood to the fire. "I'll sleep here by the hearth. You take the bed." "Absolutely not. This is your home, Miss Vance. If you insist I stay, I'll sleep here by the fire. That's final." Liam recognized that look. Pride. She'd lost everything else, she wouldn't lose that. "All right, but you're staying warm." She nodded, already drifting. Within minutes, she was asleep. Liam sat watching the fire, thinking about Blackwood. 4 women. 4 brides ordered and discarded. How many had died trying to reach town? How many had frozen in the snow? He thought about Eleanor's face when she'd said, "disappointing inventory." The pain in those words. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, something had changed. The cabin felt less empty. Morning came gray and bitter. Liam woke to find Eleanor already up, attempting breakfast. "You should be resting," he said. She jumped, nearly dropping the skillet. "I need to earn my keep." "There's no keep to earn." "I won't be useless, Mr. O'Connell. I can't repay your kindness with money, but I can work." The beans burned. The coffee came out thick as mud. But she kept trying, jaw set with determination. "You're not used to this kind of cooking," Liam said. "We had a cook in Boston, before." Eleanor stirred the beans harder. "I can sew. I can read and write and do arithmetic. I can play piano and speak passable French. But apparently none of that matters out here." "It matters, just differently." "Does it? Mr. Blackwood didn't think so? He looked at me like I was a broken tool, faulty merchandise." "Blackwood's a fool." Eleanor glanced at him, surprised. "He's practical. This is hard country." "Being practical doesn't mean being cruel." Liam poured coffee into tin cups. "This cabin, I built it with my own hands, every log, every nail. You know why?" "Why?" "Because in Ireland we had nothing. Lived on land we didn't own, worked for men who saw us as tools. My family died crossing the ocean. Mother, 2 sisters. Father died before we even left Dublin. I was 16. Eleanor's expression softened. "I'm sorry." "Point is, I came west because I wanted land that was mine, a place where my worth wasn't decided by how useful I was to someone else." He looked at her directly. "You're not faulty merchandise, Miss Vance. You're a person. That's worth more than any ranch hand's skills." Her eyes filled with tears. She turned away quickly. They ate in silence, burned beans and bitter coffee. Somehow, it felt right. After breakfast, Eleanor washed dishes while Liam mended a broken chair leg. They worked without talking, the silence comfortable. Then Eleanor spoke. "Mr. O'Connell, what else do you know about Silas Blackwood?" Liam set down his hammer. "He owns the biggest ranch in the territory, 3,000 head of cattle, 30 men on payroll, made his fortune supplying beef to the army during the war." "What kind of man is he?" "The kind who sees people as tools, useful or not useful, nothing in between." Liam paused. 2 years ago, a rancher named Mackenzie had water rights Blackwood wanted. Mackenzie refused to sell. His barn burned down that winter. His cattle got sick. The bank called in his loan. Last I heard, Mackenzie was working in the rail camps in Utah. Eleanor went pale. "You think Blackwood did that?" "I think Blackwood gets what he wants, one way or another." "Then I'm in danger." "Maybe, maybe not. You were just a bride who didn't work out. He might let it go." But even as he said it, Liam didn't believe it. Men like Blackwood didn't let things go. They finished what they started. Eleanor seemed to sense his doubt. "I should leave. Tonight, if the storm breaks, I won't bring trouble to your door." "Too late for that. Trouble's already here. Question is whether we face it together or you face it alone." "Why would you risk this?" Liam thought about it. The smart move was to send her away. Let someone else deal with Blackwood. But when he looked at Eleanor, bruised and frightened, but still fighting, he couldn't do it. "Because it's right," he said. "And because I think you're stronger than you know." She studied his face. "You really believe that?" "I do." then you're either very wise or very foolish. Probably both. For the first time, Eleanor smiled. Small, but real. The day passed in small tasks. Eleanor mended Liam's spare shirt. He fixed the wobbly table. They talked in pieces about Boston, about Ireland, about the lives they'd left behind. "Don't you get lonely?" Eleanor asked as shadows lengthened. "Sometimes, but lonely's better than bad company." "That's bleak. That's survival." Liam looked at her. "Out here you learn fast. The prettiest words can hide the ugliest intentions. The roughest exterior can hide the softest heart. You trust carefully." "Do you trust me?" "Getting there." "Good. Because I don't trust myself yet." Eleanor set down her mending. "I made terrible choices. Trusted a stranger's letter. Came west without knowing what I was walking into. I was desperate and stupid." "You were hopeful. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Hope means you're still fighting. Stupid means you've given up." Eleanor looked at him for a long moment. "How did you get so wise?" "Made enough mistakes to learn from them." Darkness fell. They ate more burned beans and bad coffee. Eleanor insisted on cleaning up, moving around the cabin like she belonged there. Around midnight, a sound jerked Liam awake. Not wind. Something else. Rhythmic, deliberate, hoofbeats. He was up instantly, moving to the window. Through the blowing snow, he could barely make out shapes. 2 riders, maybe 3, moving slowly past the cabin. Searching. Eleanor stirred. "What is it?" "Quiet," he whispered. "Don't move." The riders paused. One dismounted, walking toward the cabin. Liam's hand found the rifle above the door. His heart hammered against his ribs. Then the wind gusted hard, driving snow so thick it became a white wall. When it cleared, the riders were moving on, heading east toward town. "They're looking for you," Liam said. Eleanor's face went white. "Already? But the storm." "Blackwood doesn't like loose ends. Probably sent men out as soon as the wind died down enough." He set the rifle within reach. "You need to understand something. If they find you here, there'll be trouble. Real trouble. Then I need to leave. Now. Before I get you killed. In this weather, you wouldn't make it 100 yards. Better me dead than both of us. Nobody's dying." Liam checked the rifle's load. "We wait, but we stay ready." Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I brought this to you." "Stop apologizing. You didn't create Blackwood. You're just trying to survive him." Liam sat back down, rifle across his lap. "Get some sleep. I'll keep watch." "I can't sleep now." "Try anyway. You'll need your strength." She settled back onto the bearskin rug, but her eyes stayed open, reflecting firelight. "Liam." "Yeah. Why do men like Blackwood exist? What makes someone so empty inside?" "I don't know. Maybe they're born that way. Maybe life makes them that way. Doesn't matter much. What matters is not becoming like them." "How do you do that?" "Stay good when the world's so hard. You remember that people matter, that kindness matters, that how you treat folks when they're down says everything about who you are." He glanced at her. "My mother used to say that as long as you're breathing, you're not done yet. You've still got choices to make, good ones or bad ones. That's what separates the Blackwoods from everybody else. He chooses cruelty. We choose different." Eleanor was quiet for a long time. Then, "Your mother raised you right." She tried. "I wish I'd known her. She'd have liked you. She always said the strongest people were the ones who kept going after everything fell apart." "I don't feel strong." "Strength isn't about feeling brave. It's about doing what needs doing, even when you're terrified." Eleanor finally closed her eyes. "I hope you're right." "Me too." The hours crawled past. Liam kept watch, rifle ready, ears straining for sounds beyond the wind. No more riders came. Maybe they'd given up. Maybe they'd keep searching at first light. Around 3 in the morning, Eleanor started talking in her sleep.
No. James, please. Don't make me.
Liam stayed quiet, but he listened.
The letter. I burned it. You can't.
She thrashed under the blankets.
Father, I'm sorry.
I couldn't save it. The house. I tried. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. The money's hidden where he'll never find it. Liam's eyes snapped fully open. What money? Eleanor went still again, breathing evening out. But Liam's mind raced. She'd never mentioned money, never mentioned anyone named James. Who was he? An old suitor, a brother, and what money was hidden? He thought about the expensive dress she'd been wearing, the fine fabric of her cloak, her education, her manners. Professor's daughter, she'd said. But professors didn't have money. Not the kind worth hiding. Unless there was more to Eleanor Vance's story than she'd told him. The fire burned lower. Dawn was still hours away. Outside, the blizzard continued its assault, but Liam barely heard it anymore. His thoughts were too loud. Who are you really, Eleanor Vance, and what are you running from? Because suddenly, he wasn't sure she was just running from Blackwood. Maybe Blackwood was just the latest in a longer line of troubles. Maybe that's why she'd answered his advertisement in the first place, not just hope, but desperation. The kind that came from having nowhere else to turn. Liam looked at her sleeping form, peaceful now, unaware she'd revealed anything. He should ask her about it in the morning. Demand the truth. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the memory of her face when she'd said disappointing inventory. Maybe it was the courage it had taken to knock on a stranger's door in a blizzard. Maybe it was simply that he'd been alone too long and having someone in the cabin felt right, even if that someone brought complications. Or maybe, and this scared him more than Blackwood's men, maybe he was starting to care what happened to her. Really care. Not just the way you'd care about any person in trouble, but something deeper, something dangerous. He'd told himself he was done with that. After Mary, no, he wouldn't think about Mary. That was 5 years ago. Ancient history. But sitting here in the dark, watching Eleanor sleep, he felt something crack open in his chest. Something he'd thought was sealed forever. Outside, the wind shifted. The blizzard was finally starting to die, which meant morning would come soon. And with morning, decisions. Stay or go. Trust or question. Open his life to this mysterious woman, or protect himself by keeping distance. Liam looked at the rifle in his lap, then at Eleanor's sleeping face, then at the door that led to the dying storm. Whatever tomorrow brought, nothing would be the same. He'd opened that door last night. He'd let her in. And now, whether he liked it or not, their fates were tangled together. The fire crackled. Eleanor murmured something in her sleep. No words this time, just a soft sound that might have been contentment or might have been fear. Liam added another log to the fire and settled in to wait for dawn. The storm outside was ending, but the real storm, he suspected, was just beginning. Dawn broke cold and gray. Eleanor woke to find Liam already dressed, rifle in hand, standing by the window. They came back, she said. Not a question. Last night, 3 riders. They moved on, but they'll be back. He turned to face her. Storm's breaking. We need to talk about what happens next. Eleanor sat up, pushing hair from her face. I leave. That's what happens. Where will you go? Town. Catch the next stage east. Go back to Boston, figure something out. With what money? She froze. I have a little saved. Eleanor. His voice was gentle but firm. You were talking in your sleep last night. Her face went white. What did I say? Something about money, hidden money, and someone named James. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Eleanor stood slowly, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. You want the truth? Her voice was barely audible. I think I need it. She walked to the fire, staring into the flames. When she finally spoke, the words came haltingly, like each one cost her something. James was my father's business partner. They taught together at the university. When my father died, James helped settle the estate. Or I thought he was helping. She laughed bitterly. Turned out he was stealing. My father had a life insurance policy. $5,000. James convinced me to let him handle it. Said he'd invest it safely, provide me income while I figured out my future. He took it. All of it. By the time I discovered what he'd done, he'd disappeared. The police said there wasn't enough evidence. The insurance company said I'd signed the money over willingly. My aunt said I was a fool. Eleanor's hands were shaking. I had nothing. No money, no home, no prospects. That's when Blackwood's advertisement arrived. It felt like providence. Liam processed this. The money you mentioned in your sleep isn't real. I was dreaming about what I'd lost. She turned to him, eyes bright with unshed tears. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I was ashamed. First, I was stupid enough to trust James, then desperate enough to answer a stranger's marriage advertisement. I'm everything Blackwood said I was. Weak. Unsuitable. Stop. Liam set the rifle down and crossed to her. You're not weak. You survived a thief, poverty, and a blizzard. That's not weakness. Then why do I feel like I'm drowning? Because you've been fighting alone too long. He took her hands, cold, trembling. But you're not alone anymore. Eleanor looked up at him. Why are you doing this? Really? You don't know me. For all you know, I'm the liar here, not James. Are you? No. But you only have my word for that. Then I'll trust your word. He squeezed her hands gently. My mother used to say you judge a person by what they do when they think nobody's watching. Last night, you could have stayed in bed. Instead, you got up and tried to make breakfast, tried to be useful, even though you were exhausted and scared. That tells me everything I need to know. A tear slid down Eleanor's cheek. I don't know what to do anymore. We figure it out together. First step, breakfast that doesn't taste like charcoal. Second step, we wait and see if those riders come back. Third step, we plan from there. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's doable. They cooked together eggs this time. Bacon coffee that was almost drinkable. Eleanor was learning. Her hands were steadier. She didn't burn anything. Progress, Liam said, tasting the eggs. Don't celebrate yet. The day's young. They ate quickly. Liam kept glancing at the window, watching for movement. The storm had passed, leaving the world buried in white. Beautiful and deadly. How long until the roads are passable? Eleanor asked. Depends. If the sun comes out, maybe 2 days. If another storm hits, could be a week. A week trapped here with me. You must be regretting that open door. Not once. She met his eyes, searching for the lie. Found none. You're a strange man, Liam O'Connell. I've been called worse. They cleaned up together, falling into an easy rhythm. Eleanor washed Liam dried. Simple, domestic, oddly comfortable. Then horses. The sound came sudden and sharp, multiple riders approaching fast. Liam grabbed the rifle. Get away from the windows. Eleanor pressed herself against the wall. How many? Can't tell yet. More than 3. The horses stopped outside. Voices muffled by the cabin walls. Then a pounding on the door. O'Connell! Open up! Liam recognized that voice. Garrett Blackwood's foreman. The man who'd sent Eleanor out to die. What do you want, Garrett? We're looking for someone. Woman, dark hair, about 25. Seen anyone like that? Haven't seen anyone. Storm kept me inside. Mind if we look around? I mind plenty. This is my property. Mr. Blackwood wants his property back. He paid for a bride. She ran off. That's theft. Liam felt Eleanor stiffen beside him. He met her eyes, saw the fear there, shook his head slightly. Stay quiet. Don't know anything about that, Liam called. But even if I did, a woman's not property, contract or not. That's a legal matter for the sheriff to decide. Now open this door, O'Connell, or we'll open it for you. Liam cocked the rifle. The sound carried through the door. First man through dies, he said calmly. Second one might make it. Third definitely won't. Your choice, Garrett. Silence. Then muttering. Garrett's voice again lower now. We'll be back. With the sheriff. With a warrant. You're making a mistake. Won't be my first. The horses moved away. Liam waited until the sound faded completely before lowering the rifle. Eleanor was shaking. They'll come back. Yes. With the law. Probably. Then I need to leave now. Right now. Before they return. Where will you go? They'll be watching the roads. You won't make it to town. Then what do I do? Just wait here until they drag me back to Blackwood. Liam thought fast. There might be another way. Old mining trail heads south through the mountains. Rough going, but it connects to the stage road about 30 miles out. If we can get you there. You can't go alone. You don't know the trail, don't know the country. Liam, if you help me, you'll make an enemy of Blackwood. Everything you've built here means nothing if I have to become the kind of man who hands a woman over to someone like him. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears again. I don't understand you. Join the club. I barely understand myself anymore. He started gathering supplies. We'll need food blankets, your warmest clothes. Trail's going to be hard. Deep snow, steep climbs. But it's your best chance. When do we leave? Tonight. After dark. They'll expect you to run during daylight. We use that. They spent the day preparing. Liam packed saddlebags with supplies. Dried meat, hardtack coffee matches. Eleanor bundled into layers of clothes, men's clothes Liam gave her. They were too big, but they were warm. I look ridiculous, she said, swimming in his spare coat. You look alive. That's what matters. As evening approached, Eleanor helped Liam with the barn chores. The horses needed feeding, the cow needed milking. Normal tasks, but everything felt different now, sharper, more real. You have a good life here, Eleanor said, pouring grain into a feed bucket. Simple but good. I'm taking you away from it. You're not taking anything. I'm choosing to help. Why? And don't say it's the right thing to do. There's more to it than that. Liam stopped working. You really want to know? Yes. Because I'm tired of being alone. Because having you in that cabin these past 2 days reminded me what it feels like to talk to someone, to share space with another person. Because when I look at you, I don't see damaged goods or a burden. I see someone fighting like hell to survive, and I respect that. He paused. And because when those riders came today, my first thought wasn't about my land or my safety. It was about protecting you. That scared me. But not enough to stop. Eleanor stared at him. You hardly know me. I know enough. You know I'm trouble. You know I bring danger. You know... I know you mended my shirt without being asked. I know you tried to cook even though you didn't know how. I know you talk in your sleep about money you've lost and people who betrayed you. I know you'd rather die in a blizzard than marry a man who looked at you like you were nothing. His voice softened. I know that when you smile, which isn't often enough, it changes your whole face. I know that's enough. Eleanor crossed the space between them. If we do this, if we run, there's no going back. Blackwood won't forgive it. He'll come after both of us. Let him. You could lose everything. Already lost everything once before. Crossed an ocean with nothing. Built this from dirt and determination. If I have to do it again, I will. And if we don't make it, if we freeze on that trail or Blackwood catches us, then at least we'll go down fighting. Together. Eleanor reached up and touched his face. Her hand was rough from work, cold from the barn. You're either the bravest man I've ever met, or the most foolish. Still voting for both. She almost smiled. When we get through this, if we get through this, I'm going to learn to make decent coffee. That's my promise. I'll hold you to it. They finished the chores in silence, but it was different now. Something had shifted between them. An understanding. A bond. As they walked back to the cabin, the sun was setting. The sky turned purple and gold, beautiful against the snow. Eleanor stopped to watch it. "I haven't looked at a sunset in months," she said quietly. "In Boston, I was too busy grieving. On the stage west, I was too nervous. At Blackwood's ranch, I was too terrified. But this," she gestured at the sky, "this is worth seeing." "There'll be more," Liam said. "More sunsets, more mornings, more days. You just have to make it through this one." "I will, because I don't want to waste another sunset." They ate a quick meal as darkness fell. Eleanor barely touched her food. "Nervous?" Liam asked. "Terrified?" "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just don't let it paralyze you." "How do you stay so calm?" "Practice. And whiskey. Mostly practice." Eleanor laughed despite herself. "You're trying to make me feel better." "Is it working?" "A little." Around 9, Liam saddled 2 horses, his big gelding steady and strong, and a smaller mare for Eleanor. He tied the supplies carefully, checking every knot twice. "You ride much?" he asked. "Not since I was a girl, and that didn't go well, as you know. Stay close to me. The mare will follow my horse. Just hold on and trust her. Trust a horse that threw me 2 days ago. That was different horse in different conditions. This mare's gentle. She'll take care of you." Eleanor mounted clumsily. Liam adjusted her stirrups, showed her how to hold the reins. "We'll move slow at first," he said. "Let you get the feel of it. Trail doesn't get dangerous until we're in the mountains." "That's supposed to be comforting." "Little bit." They rode out into the darkness. The moon was half full, giving enough light to see by. The world was quiet, except for the crunch of snow under hooves and the horses breathing. For the first hour, they traveled across open country. Eleanor slowly relaxed into the saddle, finding her rhythm. Liam kept watching her, ready to catch her if she started to slip. "You're doing good," he said. "I'm terrified and freezing and my legs are cramping. But you're doing good." Around midnight, they reached the trail entrance, a narrow gap between 2 rock faces barely visible in the moonlight. "This is it," Liam said. "From here it gets harder. Trails steep, lots of switchbacks. Take your time. Don't rush." Eleanor nodded, face pale but determined. They entered the mountains. The trail was worse than Liam remembered. Snow had drifted deep in places, forcing them to dismount and lead the horses. Other sections were icy, treacherous. Eleanor slipped twice. The second time she went down hard. Liam was beside her instantly. "You hurt. Just my pride," she let him pull her up. "And my knees, and possibly my dignity." "Dignity's overrated. Can you walk?" "Yes." They pushed on. Hours blurred together. Cold seeped through layers of clothing. Eleanor's teeth chattered. Liam's hands went numb. Around 3 in the morning, they reached a small cave, more a hollow in the rock face than a proper cave, but it offered shelter from the wind. "We'll rest here," Liam said. "Few hours. Let the horses recover." Eleanor collapsed against the rock wall. "I can't feel my feet." Liam got a small fire going, risky but necessary. He pulled off Eleanor's boots and rubbed her feet, checking for frostbite. "They're okay," he said. "Just cold. Feel like needles. Like knives." "That's good. Means blood's flowing." Eleanor laughed weakly. "Your definition of good is concerning." He wrapped her feet in extra cloth and made her drink hot coffee from his flask. She grimaced. "This is terrible." "But it's warm." "There is that." They sat close together, sharing body heat. The fire crackled. The horses stood just outside the cave, dozing. "How much farther?" Eleanor asked. "Maybe 10 miles to the stage road. But it's the hardest 10. Steep climbs, narrow ledges. We'll need daylight for that. So we wait here until dawn. Few more hours at least." Eleanor leaned against him. He put his arm around her shoulders, pulling her closer. "Thank you," she whispered. For what? For this. For everything. For not giving up on me. Haven't reached the stage road yet. Save your thanks. I'll thank you twice then. Once now, once when we make it. Deal. They sat in silence, watching the fire. Liam felt Eleanor's breathing slow as exhaustion took her. He kept watch, listening for sounds of pursuit. None came. Maybe Garrett had given up. Maybe he was waiting at the stage road. Maybe he was right behind them. No way to know until it was too late. Dawn came slowly, gray light filtering through the cave entrance. Eleanor stirred. Morning already. Time to move. They ate cold rations and drank the last of the coffee. Liam kicked dirt over the fire and helped Eleanor back onto her horse. Last stretch, he said. Hardest part, stay focused. The trail climbed sharply. Eleanor's mare struggled in the deep snow. Twice they had to backtrack and find another route. The sun rose higher, warming the air just enough to make the snow heavy and wet. Around noon they reached a narrow ledge. 20 feet across, a sheer drop on one side. Eleanor looked down. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Watch me first. Liam led his gelding across slowly. The horse's hooves slipped once, twice, but found purchase. He made it across and turned back. Your turn. Don't look down. Look at me. Eleanor's hands shook on the reins. Liam, trust the mare. Trust yourself. You've made it this far. She took a breath and urged the mare forward. The horse stepped carefully, testing each foothold. Eleanor's face was white, eyes locked on Liam. Halfway across, the mare's hind leg slipped. Eleanor screamed. The horse scrambled, throwing her forward. She grabbed the mane, hanging on desperately. Don't let go, Liam shouted. The mare found her footing and lunged forward, carrying Eleanor the rest of the way. They crashed into Liam's horse, everyone tangled together. Liam grabbed Eleanor and pulled her down, holding her as she shook. I've got you. You're safe. You made it. Eleanor buried her face in his chest. I thought we were going over. But you didn't. You held on. I want to get off this mountain. Almost there, I promise. They rested briefly, then continued. The trail widened, became less treacherous. Around 2 in the afternoon, Liam spotted something through the trees. There, he said. Stage road. Eleanor looked where he pointed. A clear road recently traveled, cutting through the valley below. We made it. We made it. They descended the last stretch quickly. When they finally reached the road, Eleanor dismounted and kissed the frozen ground. Solid earth. Flat, boring, beautiful solid earth. Liam laughed. There's a way station about 5 miles east. Stage comes through tomorrow afternoon. You can get a ticket back to... He stopped. Where will you go? Eleanor stood slowly. I don't know. Not Boston. Not back to Blackwood. Somewhere new. Somewhere I can start over. You could stay. She looked at him. What? Stay. Not here, obviously. Blackwood's too close, but there are other territories. Oregon, California, places where no one knows us, where we could... He stopped suddenly, uncertain. I'm getting ahead of myself. No. Eleanor moved closer. Say it. Whatever you're thinking, say it. I'm thinking that for 2 days, I had someone in my cabin and it felt right. I'm thinking that I'd rather face whatever comes next with you than go back to being alone. I'm thinking that maybe you answering Blackwood's advertisement was supposed to happen, so you'd end up in that blizzard, so you'd knock on my door. He took her hands. I'm thinking that I want more sunsets with you. More burned coffee and bad cooking and arguments about who sleeps where. I'm thinking that maybe this isn't the end of something. Maybe it's the beginning. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. You want me to stay? After everything. After all the trouble I've caused. I want you to choose. Not because you're desperate or trapped or have nowhere else to go, but because you want to. Because you think maybe we could build something together. Something neither of us could build alone. I barely know you. You know I'll walk through a blizzard for you. You know I'll face down Blackwood's men. You know I make terrible coffee and have a stubborn streak. That's a start. Eleanor laughed through her tears. You're insane. Probably. Is that a yes? She pulled him down and kissed him. It was brief, cold, perfect. That's a maybe, she said. Ask me again when we're somewhere safe, when we're not running, when I know who I am without all this fear. Fair enough? Hoofbeats interrupted them. Both spun around. 3 riders emerged from the trees. Garrett in front, 2 ranch hands behind him, all armed. Well, well, Garrett said, smiling coldly. End of the road, O'Connell. Liam pushed Eleanor behind him. Let her go, Garrett. This is between Blackwood and me now. Sorry, boss wants his property returned, and you're going to answer for theft and kidnapping. She's not property, and she came willingly. That's not how Mr. Blackwood sees it. Now, Miss Mount up. You're coming back with us. O'Connell. Garrett pulled his gun. You can come peaceful or come dead. Your choice. Liam's rifle was still on his saddle. Too far to reach. His pistol was under his coat. 3 against 1. Bad odds. Eleanor stepped forward. I'll go. No, Liam said. I won't let you die for me. I'll go back. Face Blackwood, explain. He'll kill you or worse. Better than watching you die, Garrett laughed. Touching. But we're done talking. Miss Vance, get on that horse. Now. Eleanor started toward Garrett's horse. Liam grabbed her arm. Don't do this. She looked at him, eyes full of pain and determination. Thank you for the sunsets. I'll remember them. Then everything happened at once. A shot rang out from the trees. One of Garrett's men fell from his horse. Another shot. The second man went down. Garrett spun around trying to see the shooter. Liam dove for his rifle. A man emerged from the forest. Older gray beard wearing a sheriff's star. That's enough, Garrett, he said calmly. Lower your weapon. Garrett's face went red. Sheriff Monroe, what the hell are you doing? My job, which includes preventing kidnapping. Monroe walked closer, rifle steady. Miss Vance is free to go where she pleases. Contracts void. Blackwood abandoned her in a blizzard. Multiple witnesses confirm it. That's a lie. It's the truth. Talk to the stage driver. Talk to folks in town. Talk to Blackwood's own ranch hands. 4 women in 1 year, Garrett. 4 brides ordered and discarded. That's not business. That's something else entirely. Garrett's hand moved toward his gun. Don't, Monroe said. Those 2 men aren't dead, just wounded. But I won't miss you. Garrett froze. Blackwood will hear about this. I'm counting on it. Tell him I'll be paying him a visit tomorrow. Tell him to get his affairs in order. Because there's going to be an investigation into those 4 missing women, and into the Mackenzie Ranch fire, and into a few other things that have happened in this territory while he thought he was untouchable. Garrett looked at Liam, at Eleanor, at the sheriff. Then he spurred his horse and rode off, leaving his wounded men behind. Monroe lowered his rifle. You 2 all right? Liam found his voice. Why did you? Been watching Blackwood for months, waiting for enough evidence. When his men came to me yesterday demanding a warrant to search your cabin, I got curious, followed them, heard enough to understand what was happening. He looked at Eleanor. You're Miss Vance? Yes, sir. I'm sorry for what happened to you. Blackwood's going to answer for it, and for the others. Others? Eleanor asked. Monroe's face darkened. The 3rd woman, the lucky one Garrett told you about. We found her body last spring when the snow melted, frozen to death trying to reach town. The other 2. He shook his head. We're still looking. Eleanor swayed. Liam caught her. That could have been me, she whispered. But it wasn't, Monroe said. You found help, and now you're going to help me put Blackwood away for good. Your testimony combined with what I've got will be enough. Eleanor straightened. What do you need me to do? Come to town. Give a statement. Then you're free to go wherever you want." She looked at Liam. "What about him? Blackwood will retaliate." "O'Connell's under my protection now. Blackwood touches him, he'll hang." Monroe smiled slightly. "Besides, I suspect Mr. O'Connell can take care of himself. And now he's got someone to take care of, if I'm reading this situation correctly." Liam met Eleanor's eyes. "Your choice. Always your choice." Eleanor took his hand. "Then I choose this. I choose testimony and justice, and making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. And after that," she squeezed his hand, "after that I choose new sunsets. With you." Liam pulled her close. "That's good enough for me." Monroe cleared his throat. "Touching, really, but we should move. Garrett might come back with reinforcements." They rode toward town together, Liam, Eleanor, and the sheriff. Behind them, the mountain trail disappeared into shadows. Ahead, the future waited, uncertain, but full of possibility. Eleanor rode beside Liam, their horses almost touching. She was exhausted, terrified, probably in shock. But she was alive, she was free, and she wasn't alone anymore. Neither was he. Town appeared on the horizon just as the sun began its descent. Eleanor had never been so relieved to see buildings in her life. Her entire body ached from the ride, but the fear that had gripped her since leaving Liam's cabin was finally starting to loosen. Sheriff Monroe led them down the main street. People stopped to stare. A woman in men's clothes riding beside a homesteader and the law. Eleanor could feel their eyes, hear the whispers starting. "Let them talk," Liam said quietly, reading her expression. "They're already judging me. They don't know you. Their opinions don't matter. They will when I have to face them in court." Monroe glanced back. "Won't be a public trial, Miss Vance. Just deposition statements. You won't have to face a crowd." Small comfort, but Eleanor took it. The sheriff's office was a modest building at the end of the street. Monroe dismounted and helped Eleanor down. Her legs nearly gave out. Liam caught her elbow. "Easy. You've been riding for hours." "I've been running for days." She steadied herself. "I'm fine." Inside the office was warm and smelled of coffee and tobacco. A deputy sat at a desk, young and nervous-looking. He jumped up when they entered. "Sheriff, we heard shots up in the mountains." "Everything's handled, Collins. This is Miss Eleanor Vance and Mr. Liam O'Connell. They're under our protection. Anyone asks about them, you send them to me. Understood?" "Yes, sir." Monroe gestured to chairs. "Sit. I'll get statements from both of you, then we'll figure out next steps." Eleanor sank into a chair, exhaustion hitting her like a wave. Liam sat beside her close enough that their shoulders touched. That small contact steadied her. Monroe pulled out paper and pen. "Miss Vance, start from the beginning. When did you first contact Silas Blackwood?" Eleanor took a breath and began. She told him about the advertisement, about Boston, about James and the stolen money, about arriving at Blackwood's ranch and being rejected within minutes, about the foreman's words, "You're the fourth one this year," about the horse throwing her, about walking through the blizzard, about finding Liam's cabin. Monroe wrote it all down, his expression growing darker with each sentence. "The foreman," he said. "Garrett. He's the one who gave you the horse?" "Yes. He told me the way to town. Knew I couldn't ride well. Knew the storm was getting worse." Eleanor's voice shook. "He knew I wouldn't make it." "That's attempted murder. Add it to the list." Monroe looked at Liam. "Your turn. What happened after she arrived?" Liam described finding Eleanor at his door, nursing her back from near-death Garrett's visit with the riders, the decision to flee through the mountains. He spoke plainly, without embellishment, but Eleanor heard the emotion underneath. Heard what he wasn't saying, how scared he'd been for her, how angry Blackwood's cruelty had made him. When he finished, Monroe set down his pen. "That's enough for now. I'll need you both to sign these statements tomorrow, but the core of it's here." He looked at Eleanor. "You're very brave, Miss Vance, Most women in your position would have stayed silent. The other three didn't get that choice. No, they didn't. Monroe stood. Collins will get you set up at the boarding house. Mrs. Chen runs it. Good woman won't ask questions. You'll be safe there tonight. What about Blackwood? Liam asked. He knows we're here by now. Let him know. He makes a move against either of you, he'll hang. I've got deputies watching his ranch. He's smart enough not to do anything stupid. Monroe paused. At least I hope he is. Collins led them down the street to a 2-story house with a painted sign, Chen's Boarding House. A small Chinese woman answered the door, took one look at Eleanor, and immediately ushered them inside. You look half-dead, girl. Come. Hot bath, hot food, then sleep. Eleanor wanted to cry at the kindness. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. Sheriff sent word you were coming. You're safe here. I have shotgun, and I know how to use it. She smiled fiercely. Any man comes for you, he leaves in pieces. Liam relaxed slightly. Ma'am, I appreciate that. You're Mr. O'Connell, the one who saved her. I just opened my door. That's more than most would do. Mrs. Chen studied him appraisingly. You're good man, I can tell. You stay too. No charge. Anyone who stands against Blackwood is friend of mine. You know him? Mrs. Chen's face hardened. He tried to buy my property last year. When I refused, my supply orders got lost. My customers got scared away. He thinks because I'm Chinese I'm weak. I showed him different. How? Eleanor asked. I went to every business in town. Told them if they stopped serving me because Blackwood said so, I'd make sure everyone knew they were cowards. And I know things about people in this town. Private things. She smiled sweetly. They decided my business was worth keeping. Liam laughed. I like you, Mrs. Chen. Everyone does. Eventually. She pointed upstairs. 2 rooms at the end of the hall. Bath is down the hall. I'll bring food up in 30 minutes. You eat, you rest. Tomorrow, you fight. Eleanor followed Mrs. Chen upstairs, Liam behind her. The rooms were small, but clean, with real beds and warm quilts. Eleanor wanted to collapse right there. Bath first, Mrs. Chen insisted. You smell like horse and fear. Both wash off. The bath was heaven. Hot water, real soap, clean towels. Eleanor scrubbed away days of terror and exhaustion watching the dirt swirl down the drain. When she emerged wrapped in a borrowed robe, she felt almost human again. Mrs. Chen had left clothes on the bed, a simple dress worn but clean. Eleanor put it on, marveling at how strange it felt to wear women's clothing again after Liam's oversized coat and pants. A knock on the door. It's me, Liam said. Come in. He'd cleaned up too. His hair was wet, face scrubbed, wearing a fresh shirt Mrs. Chen must have provided. He stopped when he saw Eleanor. You look different. I look like myself again, or who I used to be. I'm not sure anymore. You look beautiful. Eleanor felt heat rise to her cheeks. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to. I'm saying it because it's true. He crossed the room slowly. How are you holding up? I don't know. Part of me wants to celebrate we made it, we're safe. But another part keeps thinking about those other women, the ones who didn't make it. That's not your fault. Isn't it? If I'd spoken up sooner, if I'd gone to the sheriff immediately instead of running, you'd be dead. Blackwood would have made sure of it. You survived, Eleanor. You got away. And now your testimony will help put him away. That matters. Does it? What if he buys his way out? What if the judge is in his pocket too? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But right now, you're alive and safe. Take the win. Eleanor sat on the bed, suddenly exhausted again. I'm scared, Liam. Really scared. Not of Blackwood anymore, but of what comes after. I have no money. No skills that matter out here, no family. Even if we put Blackwood away, then what? I'm still alone. Liam sat beside her. You're not alone. I told you that on the mountain, and I meant it. You don't owe me anything. You've already done more than... This isn't about owing. This is about choosing. He took her hand. I spent 5 years building a life by myself. Told myself it was enough. But these past few days with you showed me it wasn't. I was surviving, not living. There's a difference. What are you saying? I'm saying that when this is over, when Blackwood's dealt with and you're free to go anywhere, I want you to consider staying. Not at my cabin too close to Blackwood's ranch, but somewhere. Oregon maybe, or California. Somewhere we can start fresh, together. Eleanor's heart pounded. You're talking about marriage. Eventually, if you want. But first I'm talking about partnership, about building something neither of us could build alone, about more sunsets and bad coffee and figuring out this life side by side. That's insane. You barely know me. I know you're brave and stubborn, and you burned my beans but kept trying. I know you'd rather die than go back to someone who treated you like property. I know that when you smile, really smile, it makes everything else worth it. He squeezed her hand. I know that's enough for me. Question is whether it's enough for you. Eleanor looked at their joined hands. What if I'm broken? What if James stealing from me and Blackwood rejecting me damaged something inside that can't be fixed? Then we'll figure it out together. Everyone's broken somehow. The trick is finding someone whose broken pieces fit with yours. That's either very wise or very stupid. You keep saying that. Because I keep not knowing which it is. Eleanor met his eyes. What if I say yes, and then realize I made another mistake? What if I'm just running from one bad situation into another? Then you leave. I won't trap you. I won't make you sign anything or promise anything you're not ready for. But I think you know the difference between me and Blackwood, between me and James. Eleanor did know. She'd known it since that first morning when Liam had insisted she take the bed. Since he'd taught her to make coffee without making her feel stupid. Since he'd stood between her and Garrett's gun without hesitation. I need time, she said finally. Time to think, to breathe, to figure out who I am without someone else's expectations crushing me. Take all the time you need. And if I decide to go east back to Boston or somewhere else entirely, then I'll help you get there safely, and I'll miss you, but I'll understand. Eleanor felt tears building again. Why are you so good? I'm not. I'm selfish. I want you to stay because it's what I want. But I also want you to choose freely. Both things can be true. A knock interrupted them. Mrs. Chen entered with a tray of food, rice, vegetables, chicken, tea. The smell made Eleanor's stomach growl. Eat, Mrs. Chen commanded. Both of you. Tomorrow you'll need strength. They ate together, talking about small things. Mrs. Chen told stories about town gossip about the ranchers and shopkeepers and their various feuds. She made them laugh, and Eleanor realized how much she'd needed that. How much she'd needed to feel normal for just a little while. After dinner, Liam stood to leave. Get some rest. I'm right next door if you need anything. Liam? Yeah. Thank you for everything, for not giving up on me. Never will. He left, closing the door softly. Eleanor changed into a borrowed nightgown and crawled into bed. The mattress was soft, the blankets warm. She should have fallen asleep instantly. Instead, she lay awake thinking about Liam's offer. About starting over in Oregon or California. About building a life with someone who saw her as an equal, not property or a burden. It was terrifying. It was also the first thing in months that felt like hope. She woke to voices downstairs. Angry voices. Liam's voice. Eleanor jumped out of bed and rushed to the door. On the landing, she could hear clearly now. You need to leave Blackwood. Now. Blackwood. He was here. Eleanor's blood turned to ice. She grabbed the robe and crept to the stairs. In the parlor below, Silas Blackwood stood facing Liam. He was a big man, well-dressed with cold eyes and a cruel mouth. Mrs. Chen stood off to the side, shotgun in hand. "I'm here to speak with Miss Vance," Blackwood said calmly. "This is all a misunderstanding. If she'll just come back to the ranch, we can sort it out properly." "She's not going anywhere with you," Liam said. "That's not your decision. She signed a contract. She owes me." "She owes you nothing. You abandoned her in a blizzard. Contract's void." "So says a squatter who kidnapped my bride." Blackwood smiled coldly. "I'm a respected member of this community, O'Connell. You're nobody. Whose word do you think will matter more? Mine." Everyone turned. Eleanor stood at the top of the stairs, trembling but determined. She descended slowly, forcing herself not to run, not to show fear. "I'm nobody's property, Mr. Blackwood. Not yours, not anyone's. Your foreman sent me out in that storm knowing I'd die. That's attempted murder. Sheriff Monroe has my statement. He has witnesses. You're going to answer for what you did to me and the other women." Blackwood's expression didn't change. "Other women, I don't know what lies you've been told. 4 in 1 year. That's what Garrett said. 3 others before me. We found one of their bodies last spring." Eleanor moved closer. "How many more are out there? How many women did you discard like trash?" "Be careful what you accuse me of, Miss Vance. Slander is a serious crime." "So is murder." Blackwood's mask slipped for just a second. Eleanor saw the rage underneath, saw the man who'd looked at her like she was nothing. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "You think Sheriff Monroe will protect you? You think this town will stand with you against me? I own half the businesses here. I employ half the men. One word from me, and you'll have nowhere to go, no one to help you." "Except me," Liam said, stepping beside Eleanor. "And Mrs. Chen, and everyone else in this town who's tired of you bullying them." "You," Blackwood laughed. "You're a nobody with a dirt farm. You think you can stand against me? I think I already am." Blackwood stared at them both. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Eleanor said. "I'm filing charges. I'm testifying. And if you come near me or Liam or anyone helping us, the sheriff will arrest you. You're done, Mr. Blackwood. You just don't know it yet." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Blackwood turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Eleanor's legs gave out. Liam caught her before she hit the floor. "I've got you." "He's going to kill us," Eleanor whispered. "You heard him. He won't let this go." "Let him try." Mrs. Chen lowered the shotgun. "That man is poison. But you were very brave, Miss Vance. Very brave." "I don't feel brave. I feel terrified." "Same thing sometimes?" Mrs. Chen patted her arm. "Come, sit. I'll make tea. Tea fixes everything, except Blackwood. Him will need something stronger." They sat in Mrs. Chen's parlor drinking tea that did nothing to calm Eleanor's nerves. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. "He'll retaliate," Eleanor said. "Not directly, but he'll find a way." "Let him try," Mrs. Chen repeated. "This town has been afraid too long. Someone needs to stand up to him. Might as well be us. You're risking everything. I'm old. My children are grown, and I'm too stubborn to die scared." Mrs. Chen refilled their cups. "Besides, I meant what I said. I know things about people. Blackwood's not the only one with leverage." Liam leaned forward. "What kind of things? The kind that keep powerful men awake at night." She smiled. "Let's just say, if Blackwood pushes too hard, several important people in this territory might suddenly find their secrets aren't so secret anymore." "You're blackmailing them?" Eleanor asked. "I'm holding insurance. There's a difference." Eleanor almost laughed. "You're terrifying Mrs. Chen." "Yes, but I'm terrifying on your side. That's what matters." They finished their tea and tried to sleep, but Eleanor couldn't. Every creak of the house made her tense. Every distant sound could be Blackwood's men coming back. Around 3 in the morning, she heard Liam's door open. Footsteps in the hall. A soft knock on her door. "Eleanor, you awake?" "Yes?" He came in, closing the door behind him. "Can't sleep either. Every time I close my eyes I see him. That look in his eyes when I refuse to go back. He wanted to hurt me, Liam. Really hurt me." "I know. That's why I'm staying here tonight. On the floor by the door. Just in case." "You don't have to." "I do. For my peace of mind, if not yours." Eleanor made room on the bed. "Don't sleep on the floor. There's room here." "Eleanor, I'm not asking for anything except company. I don't want to be alone right now." Liam hesitated, then sat on the edge of the bed. "Just sleeping. That's all." "That's all." He lay down on top of the covers, keeping distance between them. But his presence helped. Eleanor's breathing slowed. The fear receded slightly. "Liam." "Yeah. When you asked me about Oregon, did you mean it? Really mean it?" "Every word. Even though you'd be giving up your cabin, your land, everything you built. Land can be rebuilt. But this," he gestured between them, "this doesn't come along every day. I'm not fool enough to let it go." Eleanor rolled over to face him. "What if I'm not worth it? What if you throw away everything you have and then discover I'm just another mistake?" "You're not a mistake. You don't know that." "I do. Because mistakes don't fight back. Mistakes give up. You did neither. You knocked on my door in the middle of a blizzard rather than die. That's not a mistake. That's survival. That's strength. I don't feel strong. No one strong ever does. That's how you know it's real." He reached across the space between them and took her hand. "Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever Blackwood tries, we face it together. You're not alone anymore. Neither am I. That's worth more than any piece of land." Eleanor held his hand tightly. "Promise me something." "What?" "Promise me that if this goes wrong, if Blackwood wins somehow, you'll leave. Go back to your cabin or head to Oregon without me. Don't let him destroy you too." "I'm not leaving you. Promise me." "No." "Liam, I said no. You don't get to ask me to abandon you. Not after everything. We stand together or we fall together. Those are the only options." Eleanor felt something break open inside her chest. "You really mean that, Ian?" "Every word." She moved closer, closing the space between them. "I don't deserve you. You deserve better than Blackwood, better than James, better than anyone who made you feel small. If I'm what better looks like, then yeah, you deserve me, and I deserve you." Eleanor kissed him. Not tentative like before, but certain. Choosing. When they broke apart, Liam was smiling. "What was that for?" "For being you, for not giving up, for making me believe I'm worth fighting for." "You are. You always were." They lay together in the darkness, hands intertwined, breathing synchronized. Outside, the town slept. Somewhere out there, Blackwood was plotting. But in this moment, in this room, they were safe. "Oregon," Eleanor whispered. "When this is over, let's go to Oregon." Yeah. Somewhere with mountains and rivers and no one who knows our names, somewhere we can build something new." "I'd like that." "Me too." Eleanor finally slept her hand in Liam's, her fear giving way to something that felt dangerously close to hope. Morning came too fast. Voices downstairs woke them, urgent, worried voices. Liam was up instantly. "Stay here," he said. "No. We do this together, remember?" They went downstairs together. Sheriff Monroe stood in the parlor, his expression grim. Deputy Collins was with him, looking even more nervous than usual. "What's wrong?" Eleanor asked. Monroe looked at them both. "Blackwood's ranch burned last night. House, barn, everything. His men are saying it was arson. They're saying you did it, O'Connell. They're calling for your arrest." Liam went very still. "I was here all night. Mrs. Chen can confirm it." "I know, but Blackwood's men are stirring up the town. They're saying you hired someone. They're saying this is revenge." Monroe ran a hand through his hair. "I need you both to stay put. Don't go anywhere. Don't talk to anyone. This is going to get ugly before it gets better." "How bad?" Eleanor asked. "Bad enough that I'm deputizing every man I trust and preparing for the worst. Blackwood's not going to let this go. He'll come for both of you, law or no law." "Then we run," Eleanor said. "Leave now before he can—" "No," Liam interrupted. "We're not running. We didn't do this, and we're not acting guilty." "But—" "Eleanor, if we run, we'll be running forever. Blackwood wins. The other women's deaths go unanswered. Everything we fought for means nothing." He looked at Monroe. "We stay. We fight this properly." Monroe nodded slowly. "All right. But I'm putting guards on this house. Collins, get 2 men you trust. Armed. Nobody in or out without my say-so." As Collins left, Mrs. Chen appeared with tea. "Good. You're defending my house. It's about time someone made Blackwood bleed." "His ranch burned, Mrs. Chen," Monroe said carefully. "People could have died." "Did they?" "No. Everyone got out." "Then maybe someone just wanted to send a message." She smiled slightly. "Sometimes the universe delivers justice on its own." Monroe stared at her. Did I burn down a ranch, sheriff? I was here all night, making tea. I make excellent tea." "Mrs. Chen." "Would you like some tea, Sheriff? You look stressed." Monroe shook his head, almost smiling despite everything. "You're going to be the death of me. Better me than Blackwood." Eleanor sank into a chair, her mind racing. The ranch burning changed everything. Blackwood would be out for blood now. All his possessions, his reputation gone in one night. He'd blame them even if they had nothing to do with it. And maybe they didn't. But someone had sent that message. Eleanor thought about the other women, about bodies frozen in the snow, about Garrett's casual cruelty, about Blackwood's cold eyes when he'd stood in this very parlor. Maybe the universe did deliver justice sometimes. Maybe some fires needed to burn. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Monroe looked at them both. "Now we wait. We gather evidence. We prepare for trial. And we hope Blackwood doesn't do anything stupid." "He will," Liam said with certainty. "Men like him always do." "Then we'll be ready." But as Monroe left to organize his deputies, Eleanor wondered if anyone could really be ready for what was coming. Blackwood had lost everything. Men like that didn't go quietly. They fought. They burned. They destroyed. And everyone in their path paid the price. The waiting was worse than running. Eleanor paced Mrs. Chen's parlor while armed deputies stood guard outside. 3 days had passed since the fire, and the tension in town had grown thick enough to choke on. Liam sat by the window watching the street. He'd barely slept. Every footstep outside made him reach for the rifle Monroe had left them. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor," he said without looking at Eleanor. "I need to move. If I sit still, I'll go insane." "Then sit still and go insane quietly. Your pacing is making me nervous." Eleanor stopped. "How can you joke right now?" "Because if I don't, I'll start thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. And that won't help either of us." Mrs. Chen entered with tea, always tea. Eleanor was starting to hate the stuff, but she took the cup anyway. "Any news?" Mrs. Chen asked. "Nothing. Monroe's been questioning Blackwood's men, but they all have the same story. They saw O'Connell near the ranch that night. They saw him ride away just before the fire started." "Lies," Eleanor said flatly. "Of course they're lies, but they're organized lies. Someone told them exactly what to say." Mrs. Chen sipped her own tea. "Blackwood's smart. He knew burning his own ranch would give him leverage, insurance money, sympathy from the town, and a crime to pin on you both." Liam turned from the window. "You think he burned it himself?" "I think desperate men do desperate things. He was already facing charges for what he did to Miss Vance. The other bodies, the attempted murder, he was going to lose everything anyway. This way he controls the narrative, makes himself the victim." "That's insane," Eleanor said. "That's survival. He's fighting back the only way he knows how." Mrs. Chen set down her cup. Question is, what do we do about it? Before anyone could answer, the door burst open. Deputy Collins stumbled in, blood streaming from his temple. "They're coming," he gasped. 20 men, maybe more. Blackwood's leading them. They've got torches. Liam was on his feet instantly. "Where's Monroe?" "Trying to gather more deputies, but most of the town's too scared to stand against Blackwood. We've got maybe 6 men who'll fight." Collins wiped blood from his eyes. "You need to run, now, out the back. I'll hold them off." "No one's holding off 20 men." Liam interrupted. He grabbed the rifle and checked the ammunition. "Mrs. Chen, get upstairs. Barricade yourself in." "This is my house. I'm not hiding." "Mrs. Chen?" "I said no." She pulled out her shotgun. "I've been waiting for this moment. Let them come." Eleanor felt ice in her veins. "We can't fight them all." "We don't have to fight them all. We just have to survive until Monroe gets here with reinforcements." Liam moved to the window. "How long, Collins?" 5 minutes. Maybe less. Eleanor grabbed Liam's arm. "This is insane. We should run. Live to fight another day." "There won't be another day. We run now, Blackwood hunts us forever. We make our stand here." He looked at her. "But you should go. Out the back, take a horse head for the mountains. I'll buy you time." "No." Eleanor's voice was steel. "You said we stand together or fall together. I'm holding you to that." "Eleanor, give me a gun." "You don't know how to shoot." "Then I'll learn fast." "Mrs. Chen handed Eleanor a pistol. Point this end at bad men. Pull trigger. Try not to shoot yourself." Eleanor took the weapon. It was heavier than she expected. "What if I miss?" "Everyone misses their first shot. Second shot, usually better." Mrs. Chen smiled grimly. "Or you die. Either way, problem solved." "You're terrifying," Eleanor said. "Yes. Now get away from windows." They positioned themselves, Liam at the front window, Mrs. Chen at the side. Collins by the door, Eleanor in the back covering the kitchen entrance. The pistol felt wrong in her hands. Everything felt wrong. Voices outside. Angry voices. Getting closer. "O'Connell, we know you're in there." Blackwood's voice amplified by rage. "Come out and face justice." Liam didn't respond. "You burned my ranch, destroyed everything I built. You'll hang for it." "Funny," Liam called back. "I was in bed all night. Multiple witnesses say so." "Lying witnesses. You paid them off." "With what money? I'm a dirt farmer. Remember, you said so yourself." The crowd murmured. Liam was playing to them, Eleanor realized, reminding them that his story made more sense than Blackwood's. "You turned the whole town against me," Blackwood shouted. "Spread lies about dead women, about murder. We found bodies." Sheriff Monroe's voice cut through. He'd arrived with his deputies, forming a line between the mob and the boarding house. 3 women, Blackwood. 3 mail-order brides who disappeared from your ranch. All found frozen in the snow. That's not lies. That's evidence. Coincidence. Women get lost in storms. 4 women in 2 years. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. Monroe's voice was calm but hard. "Now I'm giving you one chance. Disperse. Go home. Let the law handle this." "The law?" Blackwood laughed bitterly. "The law is whatever I say it is. I own this town." "Not anymore." A new voice, Mayor Hutchins, flanked by several prominent townspeople. "We've been afraid of you too long, Silas. But burning your own ranch to frame an innocent man, that's too far." "I didn't burn." "We found the coal oil cans," Monroe interrupted. "Hidden in your foreman's quarters. Same brand you use. And we talked to Garrett. Under pressure, he admitted you ordered him to set the fire. You were going to blame O'Connell and collect the insurance." The crowd's murmur changed tone. Doubt was creeping in. Blackwood's face went red. "Garrett's a liar. He's trying to save himself. He's got signed papers. Your handwriting. Instructions for the fire. The false testimony, everything. Monroe stepped forward. Silas Blackwood, you're under arrest for arson, insurance fraud, attempted murder, and the deaths of 3 women. Drop your weapon. Never. Blackwood pulled his gun. I built this town. I made it what it is. You ungrateful. He aimed at Monroe. 3 shots rang out simultaneously. Monroe, 2 deputies. Blackwood dropped. The mob scattered. Without their leader, they were just frightened men who'd gotten caught up in something bigger than they understood. Within minutes, the street was empty, except for Monroe's deputies and Blackwood lying in the dirt. Eleanor rushed outside. Is he alive? Monroe said, kneeling beside Blackwood. Barely. Someone get the doctor. Blackwood coughed blood. His eyes found Eleanor. This is your fault, he rasped. You ruined everything. No. Eleanor stood over him, feeling nothing but cold clarity. You ruined yourself by treating people like property, by thinking your money made you untouchable, by believing women's lives didn't matter. They don't, Blackwood spat. You're all just human beings, Eleanor finished, with as much right to live as you. More actually, since we're not murderers. Blackwood tried to speak again, but the words turned to blood. The doctor arrived, took one look, and shook his head. Nothing I can do. Maybe an hour, maybe less. Eleanor felt Liam's hand on her shoulder. Come inside. You don't need to watch this. But she stayed until Blackwood's eyes went empty. Until the man who'd tried to destroy her was just a corpse in the street. She needed to see it. Needed to know he couldn't hurt anyone else. When it was over, she turned to Liam. It's really finished. It's finished. Eleanor started shaking. All the fear she'd held back for days came flooding through. Liam caught her before she collapsed, holding her as she sobbed into his chest. I've got you, he murmured. You're safe. It's over. Mrs. Chen appeared with blankets. Inside. Both of you. Tea and rest. I really hate tea, Eleanor said through tears. Too bad. You're drinking it anyway. They spent the rest of the day in Mrs. Chen's parlor, while Monroe and his deputies cleaned up the aftermath. Garrett and 3 other ranch hands were arrested. The remaining men scattered looking for new employment. Blackwood's property would be auctioned to pay his debts. What happens to the ranch? Eleanor asked. Monroe, who'd stopped by to check on them, shrugged. Gets sold. Probably split into smaller parcels. Maybe some of the men who worked for Blackwood can buy their own land for once. Good, Eleanor said. He shouldn't be remembered with monuments. He'll be remembered as a cautionary tale. That's worse. Monroe accepted tea from Mrs. Chen, even he couldn't refuse her. You 2 are free to go whenever you want. No charges, no suspicion. The evidence cleared you completely. What about the women? Eleanor asked quietly. The ones who died. We're working on identifying them, contacting their families, making sure they're buried properly. Thanks to your testimony, their deaths won't be forgotten. Eleanor nodded. It wasn't enough, nothing could be enough, but it was something. After Monroe left, Eleanor and Liam sat together in the growing darkness. The adrenaline was fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Oregon, Liam said finally. Still want to go. More than ever. I can't stay here. Too many ghosts. When do you want to leave? Soon. Maybe a week. Give us time to prepare, say goodbye, figure out the route. Goodbye to who? We barely know anyone here. Eleanor smiled slightly. Mrs. Chen, Monroe, the people who helped us when they didn't have to. They deserve better than us disappearing in the night. All right, 1 week. They spent the following days preparing. Liam sold what little he could from his cabin tools, furniture, livestock. Eleanor helped Mrs. Chen around the boarding house, trying to repay the kindness she'd been shown. They bought supplies for the journey, food, blankets, ammunition. New clothes for Eleanor, practical ones she could travel in. On their last night in town, Mrs. Chen threw them a small farewell dinner. Sheriff Monroe came, and Mayor Hutchins and a few others who'd stood against Blackwood. It was small and quiet and perfect. "You're good people," Mrs. Chen said, pressing a package into Eleanor's hands. "This is food for the journey. And this—" She handed Eleanor a small leather pouch. "This is money. Not much, but enough to start over." "Mrs. Chen, I can't—" "You can and you will. Call it payment for showing this town that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and doing what's right anyway." She hugged Eleanor tightly. "You make good life in Oregon. You have babies grow old, be happy. That's best revenge." Eleanor hugged her back, crying again. "Thank you. For everything." "Thank me by living well, by being free." Monroe shook Liam's hand. "You're a good man, O'Connell. Don't let anyone tell you different." "Just open my door, Sheriff. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they wouldn't. That's what makes it matter." They left at dawn before the town woke. 2 horses packed with supplies heading west toward a future neither of them could predict. The morning was cold, but clear. The kind of day that promised good traveling. Eleanor rode beside Liam in silence for the first hour, just processing. Everything that had happened, the blizzard, the running, the fear, the violence, it felt like years compressed into days. "You all right?" Liam asked eventually. "I don't know. Ask me in a month." "Fair enough." They rode through country Eleanor had never seen. Rolling hills gave way to dense forests. Streams sparkled in the sunlight. It was beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. "Why Oregon?" she asked. "Why not California or Montana or somewhere closer?" "Oregon's got good farmland. Plenty of rain. Not too crowded yet. And it's far enough from Wyoming that nobody will know our names." Liam glanced at her. "Unless you'd rather go somewhere else." "No. Oregon sounds perfect. As long as we're together. Always." They traveled for 2 weeks, stopping in small towns to resupply. Each night they'd make camp and sit by the fire talking about what they'd build when they reached Oregon. A small farm, Liam thought. Nothing fancy. Just enough land to grow food, raise some animals, live simply. "I want chickens," Eleanor said one night. "I know that's silly, but I've never had chickens." "Not silly. Chickens are practical. Eggs every day. And a garden. A real garden with vegetables and maybe some flowers." "You know how to garden." "No. But I'll learn. Same way I learned to cook. Badly at first, then slightly less badly." Liam laughed. "Your cooking's gotten better." "That's because you're a patient teacher, and because the bar was set very low." They fell into easy rhythms. Eleanor's writing improved. Her hands toughened from helping set up camp and cook meals. She learned to start fires and identify edible plants and predict weather by watching clouds. "You're becoming quite the frontier woman," Liam observed. "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not. I always knew you had it in you." "Did you because I didn't?" That's what makes it real. People who think they're strong usually aren't. But people who discover their strength through necessity, that's the kind that lasts. 3 weeks into their journey, they reached the Oregon Territory. The land was everything Liam had promised, green and fertile with mountains in the distance and rivers cutting through valleys. "This could work," Eleanor said, looking out over a particularly beautiful stretch of land. "We could build something here." "We will." They found a land office in a small town called Cedar Falls. The clerk was a cheerful man named Miller who seemed delighted to help. "Plenty of good land available," he said, spreading maps across his desk. "How much acreage you looking for?" "160 acres, Liam said. "Enough to farm, maybe run some cattle." "I can do that. Got several parcels that fit. This one here's got good water access. This one's got established timber. This one's flat, easier for building." Eleanor studied the maps. "The one with water access. That seems most practical." "Good choice. I'll draw up the papers." Miller looked between them. You married? Not yet, Liam said. Might want to take care of that before filing. Makes the paperwork simpler. There's a preacher in town, Reverend Hayes. Good man. He could do a quick ceremony if you're interested. Eleanor and Liam exchanged glances. What do you think? Liam asked carefully. Too fast. We've survived blizzards and murders and a mountain crossing. Getting married seems comparatively easy. Eleanor smiled. Yes, let's do it. You're sure, I've never been more sure of anything. Miller grinned. I'll send word to Reverend Hayes. Meet at the church in an hour. An hour later, Eleanor stood in a small wooden church wearing a borrowed dress from the preacher's wife. Liam wore his cleanest shirt. There were no flowers, no guests except Miller and his wife serving as witnesses. No music or fancy words. Just Reverend Hayes asking if they promised to love and honor each other. Just Eleanor and Liam saying yes. Just two people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances choosing to build a life together. I now pronounce you husband and wife, Hayes said. You may kiss your bride. Liam kissed Eleanor softly, carefully, like she was something precious he'd fought hard to keep. Hello, Mrs. O'Connell, he whispered. Hello, Mr. O'Connell. Eleanor laughed, giddy and terrified and happier than she'd been in years. Did we really just do that? We really did. They filed the land claim as a married couple, paid the fees with the money Mrs. Chen had given them and what Liam had saved. By evening, they owned 160 acres of Oregon territory. It's real, Eleanor said, staring at the deed. We actually own land. We do. Now we just have to figure out what to do with it. They spent the first weeks living in a tent while Liam started building a cabin. Eleanor helped as much as she could, holding boards, handing him tools, learning basic carpentry. Her hands blistered and bled, but she kept working. You don't have to do this, Liam said, watching her struggle with a heavy log. Yes, I do. This is our home. I'm building it same as you. The cabin rose slowly. One wall, then two, then four. A roof that only leaked a little. A door that actually closed. Windows that let in light. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Eleanor planted a garden. Most of the seeds didn't take that first year, but some did. Beans and squash and potatoes. Enough to eat, enough to save for next year's planting. They bought chickens from a neighboring farm. Eleanor named every single one, much to Liam's amusement. They're livestock, not pets, he said. They can be both. This one's Martha. She's the bossy one. And this is Beatrice. You've got to be kidding. I'm not, and that one's Henrietta. And the rooster is Lord Fluffington. Lord Fluffington. He's very dignified. He deserves a title. Liam just laughed and kissed her forehead. You're insane. Yes, but you married me anyway. Best decision I ever made. The first winter was hard. Snow came early and stayed late. The cabin was drafty. Food ran low. They burned through firewood faster than expected. Eleanor got sick with a fever that lasted a week. Liam barely slept sitting up with her through the worst of it. I'm sorry, she whispered when the fever finally broke. For what? For being weak. For getting sick. For not being the strong wife you need. Eleanor, look at me. Liam took her face in his hands. You survived a blizzard, escaped a murderer, crossed a mountain range, and helped build this cabin with your bare hands. You learned to cook and garden and wrangle chickens. You're the strongest person I know. Getting sick doesn't change that. But, no buts, you're allowed to be human. You're allowed to need help sometimes. That's what marriage means. We take turns being strong for each other. Eleanor cried, but this time from relief. I love you. It was the first time either of them had said it out loud. I love you too, Liam said. Have since that first morning when you tried to cook breakfast and burned everything but insisted on trying anyway. That's a weird moment to fall in love. Yeah, well, you're a weird woman. Suits me fine. Spring came eventually. The snow melted. The garden sprouted. Eleanor's strength returned. They added on to the cabin a second room, a proper kitchen, a porch where they could sit in the evenings. Neighbors started appearing. Other homesteaders looking to build new lives. The Johnsons to the north, older couple with 3 sons. The Abbotts to the east, young family expecting their first child. The Wongs to the south, immigrants from California looking for farmland. They helped each other. Barn raisings, harvest crews shared supplies. The isolation Eleanor had feared never materialized. Instead, she found community. People who didn't judge her past, who only cared about who she was now. By their 2nd anniversary, Cedar Falls had grown into a proper town. A school opened. Eleanor volunteered to teach reading twice a week. She loved it, loved seeing children learn, loved feeling useful in ways that had nothing to do with cooking or cleaning. "You're good at this," Liam said, watching her work with a struggling student. "Really good." "I like it. Makes me feel like I'm building something that lasts." She looked at him. "Is that silly?" Not even a little. One evening, Eleanor found Liam sitting on the porch staring at the sunset. She sat beside him, taking his hand. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How different life is now. 2 years ago, I was alone in a cabin convinced that was all I'd ever have. Now I've got you and this land and neighbors and a future." He squeezed her hand. "And I'm thinking about how none of it would have happened if you hadn't knocked on my door that night." "If you hadn't opened it, you mean?" "Both. We both had to make choices. You chose to keep fighting when you could have given up. I chose to help when I could have stayed safe." He turned to face her. "We built this together, Eleanor. That's what makes it matter." Eleanor leaned against him, watching the sun paint the sky purple and gold. "Remember when I said I'd learn to make decent coffee?" "I remember." "I finally did it. Only took 2 years." "Worth the wait." They sat together as darkness fell. Lord Fluffington crowed from the chicken coop. The wind rustled through the trees they'd planted. Inside the cabin, a fire crackled in the hearth. It wasn't the life Eleanor had imagined when she'd answered Blackwood's advertisement. It was smaller, harder, more uncertain. But it was hers. Built with her own hands, shared with someone who saw her as an equal, earned through survival and stubbornness, and refusing to quit. "Liam." "Yeah." "I'm glad I knocked on your door." "Me too." He kissed the top of her head. "Me too." The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning in late spring, 3 years after they'd left Wyoming. Eleanor was in the garden pulling weeds when she saw the mail rider approaching. Letters were rare this far from civilization, and her heart jumped with both excitement and worry. Liam emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on his pants. "That's Miller's boy. Must be something official." The rider handed Liam an envelope. "Letter from Wyoming Territory. Sheriff Monroe sent it." Eleanor's stomach dropped. Wyoming. She hadn't thought about that place in months, had almost convinced herself it was all a bad dream. Liam waited until the rider left before opening it. His face went pale as he read. "What is it?" Eleanor asked, moving closer. "It's about the trial. Garrett's trial. Monroe says they need you to testify. They've got him on charges for the fire and for his part in the women's deaths. But your testimony about what he said about you being the 4th one, that's crucial evidence." Eleanor felt cold, despite the warm sun. "When?" "6 weeks. They're holding the trial in Cheyenne. Says here they'll pay for our travel and lodging." Liam looked up from the letter. "You don't have to go. Monroe says your written statement might be enough." "Might be." "Probably not. Garrett's lawyer is fighting everything. Without you there to testify in person, he could walk." Eleanor sat down hard on the porch steps. "I can't go back there. I can't face that place again." Liam sat beside her. "I know. Those women deserve justice. But I've finally built a life here. I'm happy. Going back feels like opening a door I worked so hard to close." "Then don't go. We'll write to Monroe, explain. And Garrett goes free, and maybe does it again to someone else." Eleanor put her head in her hands. I hate this. I hate that even now, 3 years later, they still have power over my life. They don't. You do. Whatever you decide, I'll support it. Eleanor thought about the other women, the ones who'd frozen in the snow, the ones who'd never gotten the chance to build a life, to find happiness, to sit in the sun and pull weeds from their own garden. She thought about their families, probably still wondering what had happened to their daughters. I have to go, she said finally. I hate it, but I have to. Then we go together. Liam, the farm. The Johnsons will look after things. They've offered before. And you're not facing this alone. Eleanor leaned against him, drawing strength from his solid presence. 6 weeks. We have 6 weeks to prepare myself for this. The weeks passed too quickly. Eleanor threw herself into work, trying not to think about the trial. She taught extra classes at the school. She expanded the garden. She even started planning a small orchard, though she knew she wouldn't be there to plant it before leaving. Mrs. Abbott visited one afternoon, bringing fresh bread and concern. I heard about the trial. Are you all right? Honestly, no, but I will be. What you're doing, going back to testify, that's incredibly brave. It doesn't feel brave. It feels necessary. There's a difference. Mrs. Abbott studied her. Is there? Seems to me that doing the necessary thing, even when you're terrified, is the definition of brave. Eleanor smiled despite herself. You sound like Liam. He's a smart man. You should listen to him more. The night before they were scheduled to leave, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She stood on the porch watching the stars, trying to memorize the peace of this place, trying to hold on to it so she could carry it back to Wyoming like armor. Liam came out and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Can't sleep either. I keep thinking about walking into that courtroom, seeing Garrett again, having to relive everything that happened. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you. What if I freeze? What if I can't speak? What if my testimony isn't enough? Then we deal with it. But Eleanor, I've watched you survive things that would have broken most people. You're stronger than you think. Everyone keeps saying that. I'm tired of being strong. I'm tired of having to prove myself over and over. I know. But this is the last time. After this, it's done. Garrett faces justice or he doesn't. But either way, you'll have done everything you could. Then we come home, and we never look back. Eleanor turned to face him. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens in that courtroom, we don't stay in Wyoming 1 minute longer than necessary. We testify and we leave. I can't be in that place any longer than I have to. Done. We'll be on the first stage out. They left at dawn, retracing the route they'd taken 3 years earlier. But this time, everything was different. This time, they were traveling toward the past instead of away from it. This time, Eleanor knew exactly what she was riding into. The journey took 2 weeks. They stayed in the same small towns, sometimes at the same inns. Eleanor kept expecting to feel something: fear, anxiety, regret. But mostly, she just felt numb, like she was watching someone else make this trip. When they finally crossed into Wyoming territory, Eleanor's hands started shaking. She gripped the reins tighter, trying to control it. We can still turn back, Liam said quietly. No, we're too close now. Cheyenne was bigger than Eleanor remembered. More buildings, more people. Progress, she supposed, though it didn't feel like it. They found the hotel. Monroe had arranged a decent place near the courthouse. Monroe was waiting in the lobby. He looked older, more tired, but his smile was genuine when he saw them. O'Connell, Mrs. O'Connell, thank you for coming. How's the case looking? Liam asked. Monroe's smile faded. Complicated. Garrett's lawyer is good. He's arguing that the women's deaths were accidents, that Garrett was just following orders, that there's no direct evidence linking him to murder. Your testimony. He looked at Eleanor. What you heard him say about you being the fourth one, that's the closest thing we have to a confession. What about the fire? Eleanor asked. He's trying to pin that entirely on Blackwood. Says he was coerced, feared for his life. Without Blackwood alive to contradict him, it's his word against the evidence. And evidence can be interpreted different ways. Eleanor felt sick. So he might walk. Not if I can help it. But I need you to be strong in there. His lawyer will try to discredit you. He'll bring up your relationship with O'Connell, suggest you have a motive to lie. It won't be pleasant. Nothing about this is pleasant. I know, but you've come this far. See it through. The trial started the next morning. Eleanor wore her best dress, the one Mrs. Abbott had helped her make for church. She wanted to look respectable, composed like someone whose testimony mattered. The courtroom was packed. Apparently, the case had drawn attention from across the territory. Eleanor saw newspaper reporters scribbling notes. She saw townspeople she recognized from her brief time in Wyoming. And there at the defense table was Garrett. He looked different. Thinner, older, with a defeated slump to his shoulders. But when he saw Eleanor, something flickered in his eyes. Recognition and anger. Eleanor sat in the gallery next to Liam, waiting for her turn to testify. She listened to the prosecutor lay out the case. She listened to Garrett's lawyer spin a story about a loyal foreman who'd been manipulated by a powerful, cruel employer. She listened to testimony from other ranch hands, most of whom claimed they'd known nothing about the women's deaths. Finally, Monroe took the stand as the prosecution's key witness. He described finding the bodies. He described the investigation into Blackwood's pattern of ordering brides and discarding them. He described Eleanor's arrival at his office, her statement, the rescue on the mountain trail. Then it was Eleanor's turn. The prosecution calls Eleanor O'Connell. Eleanor stood on shaking legs. Liam squeezed her hand once before letting go. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was kind, asking gentle questions. Where had she come from? Why had she answered Blackwood's advertisement? What had happened when she arrived at the ranch? Eleanor answered carefully, keeping her voice steady. She described Blackwood's rejection, the foreman giving her a horse being sent out into the storm. She described finding Liam's cabin more dead than alive. And what did the foreman, the defendant, Mr. Garrett, what did he say to you when he gave you the horse? This was it, the crucial testimony. Eleanor looked directly at Garrett. He told me the way to town. Then he said, "You're the fourth one this year. The lucky one was the third. She got on the stage before the storm hit." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge called for order. "What did you understand him to mean by that?" the prosecutor asked. That there had been other women, other brides that Mr. Blackwood had rejected, and that at least one of them hadn't survived. Objection. Garrett's lawyer was on his feet. The witness is speculating about the defendant's intent. "I'm stating what he said and what it meant," Eleanor said before the judge could respond. "He knew I wouldn't survive that storm. He knew I couldn't ride. He sent me out anyway. That's not speculation. That's murder." "The witness will refrain from editorializing," the judge said, but his tone wasn't harsh. Objection sustained, but the jury will note the defendant's actual words as testified. The prosecutor smiled slightly. No further questions. Then came the hard part. Garrett's lawyer stood adjusting his jacket with theatrical precision. "Mrs. O'Connell, you testified that you were engaged to marry Mr. Blackwood. Is that correct?" "I had agreed to marry him, yes. But instead you married Mr. Liam O'Connell, the man sitting right there." He pointed at Liam. "A man you'd known for what, 2 days?" 3. "I don't see what that has to do with." "It speaks to your character, Mrs. O'Connell. You abandon one engagement and immediately enter another. Some might call that opportunistic." Eleanor felt anger flare. "I didn't abandon anything. Mr. Blackwood rejected me. He sent me out to die. I survived. And yes, I married Liam. Because he's a good man who treated me like a human being instead of property. A good man who conveniently stood to gain if Mr. Blackwood was disgraced. A good man who was seen near Mr. Blackwood's ranch the night it burned." "That's a lie," Eleanor said flatly. "Liam was with me that entire night. We have witnesses." Witnesses who are your friends. Mrs. Chen, for instance, a woman with her own grudge against Mr. Blackwood. Are you suggesting Mrs. Chen lied under oath? I'm suggesting that your entire story is convenient. A rejected bride, a heroic rescuer, a villain who dies before he can defend himself. It's quite a narrative. Eleanor stood, ignoring the judge's command to remain seated. You want to know what's convenient? Garrett blaming everything on a dead man. Garrett claiming he was just following orders. Garrett pretending he didn't know that sending women out in blizzards would kill them. Her voice rose. I was there. I heard what he said. I know what he intended. And I'm not going to sit here and let you twist the truth to save a murderer. Mrs. O'Connell, the judge barked. Sit down. Eleanor sat, but she kept her eyes on Garrett's lawyer. No more questions, he said, looking shaken. The trial continued for 3 more days. More witnesses, more evidence, more legal arguments that made Eleanor's head spin. But through it all, her testimony stood. Garrett had told her she was the 4th one. That statement, combined with the bodies and the pattern of behavior, painted a damning picture. On the 4th day, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. Eleanor and Liam waited in the hotel, unable to eat or rest. Finally, word came. Verdict was in. They rushed to the courthouse. The gallery was packed again, everyone wanting to see how this would end. The jury foreman stood. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of arson, we find the defendant guilty. Eleanor felt Liam's arm around her as relief flooded through. Guilty. On all counts. The judge sentenced Garrett to 20 years hard labor. He'd be an old man before he saw freedom again if he survived that long. As they led Garrett away, he looked back at Eleanor. This is your fault, he said, echoing Blackwood's dying words. You ruined everything. No, Eleanor said clearly. You ruined yourselves. I just survived you. Outside the courthouse, Monroe shook their hands. Thank you. Without your testimony, he might have walked. What about the other women's families? Eleanor asked. Do they know? We've contacted them all. They're grateful. It doesn't bring their daughters back, but at least now they know what happened. They can bury them properly. That's something. It wasn't enough, Eleanor thought. But Monroe was right. It was something. They left Cheyenne the next morning on the first westbound stage. Eleanor watched Wyoming disappear behind them with fierce satisfaction. She'd never have to come back. Never have to think about Blackwood or Garrett or that terrible blizzard night again. How do you feel? Liam asked as the miles rolled past. Free? Eleanor said. And she meant it. The journey home took another 2 weeks, but this time Eleanor felt lighter. The weight she'd been carrying, the fear, the guilt, the sense of unfinished business had lifted. She'd done what needed doing. Now she could really move forward. When they finally reached Cedar Falls, Mrs. Abbott was waiting at the edge of their property with news. Thank goodness you're back. The most wonderful thing happened while you were gone. What? Eleanor asked, climbing down from the wagon. A family came through looking for land. The Harrisons. They have a daughter about 8 years old. Sweet child, but she can't speak. Something happened to her when she was younger. Anyway, I told them about your teaching, and they're desperate for someone who might be able to help her learn. Eleanor felt a flutter of excitement. When can I meet them? Tomorrow, if you'd like. They're staying at Miller's boarding house while they look for property. Eleanor met Sarah Harrison the next day. The girl was small for 8, with serious brown eyes and a way of watching everything intently. Her parents were nervous, apologetic. We know she's difficult, Mrs. Harrison said. Most teachers don't want to try. I'd like to try, Eleanor said. She knelt in front of Sarah. Hello, I'm Mrs. O'Connell. I hear you're very smart. Sarah nodded slowly. Good. Smart is good. We'll figure out how to help you learn. It might take time, but we'll do it together. Sarah signed something with her hands. Her mother translated. She says thank you. You're welcome. Over the following months, Eleanor worked with Sarah 3 times a week. She learned basic sign language from a book Miller ordered from back east. She developed lessons that didn't require speaking. And slowly, carefully, Sarah began to blossom. One afternoon, Sarah's parents pulled Eleanor aside. "We don't know how to thank you. She's learning so much. She's happier than we've seen her in years. She's a wonderful student, bright and determined." "She reminds us of you," Mr. Harrison said. "The way you describe surviving that blizzard, building a new life, Sarah's doing the same thing, learning to thrive despite her challenges." Eleanor hadn't thought of it that way, but he was right. Sarah was fighting her own battle, finding her own strength, just like Eleanor had. That fall, Eleanor discovered she was pregnant. The news sent her into a panic. At first, she knew nothing about babies, about being a mother. What if she failed? What if she wasn't enough? "You'll figure it out," Liam said, holding her as she cried. "Same way you figured out everything else, one day at a time." "I'm scared." "So am I. But we'll be scared together." Mrs. Abbott threw Eleanor a small celebration. The neighboring women came with gifts and advice. Mrs. Johnson brought baby clothes her sons had outgrown. Mrs. Wong brought herbs for morning sickness. Mrs. Chen sent a letter from Wyoming with congratulations and more practical wisdom than Eleanor knew what to do with. "You're not alone," Mrs. Abbott reminded her. "We're all here. We'll help." The baby came in late spring, a daughter with dark hair and Liam's green eyes. They named her Hope because that's what she represented. Hope for the future. Hope that they could build something lasting. Hope that the darkness they'd survived would never touch their child. Eleanor held Hope for the first time and felt something shift inside her. This tiny person represented everything they'd fought for, everything they'd built. She was the proof that survival wasn't just about enduring, it was about creating something new and beautiful from the ashes of what had been destroyed. "She's perfect," Liam whispered, touching Hope's tiny hand. "She is." Eleanor looked up at him. "We did this. We made something good." "We did." Life settled into new rhythms. Eleanor taught classes in the morning, worked with Sarah in the afternoons, and cared for Hope in between. Liam expanded the farm, adding more animals and another field. The orchard Eleanor had planned finally got planted apple trees that would take years to bear fruit, but they had time now. Sarah Harrison continued to thrive. By her 10th birthday, she was reading at an advanced level and helping Eleanor teach younger children. The Harrisons had bought land next to the O'Connells, and the two families had become close friends. One evening, 5 years after the trial, Eleanor sat on the porch watching Hope play with Sarah. The girls were laughing. Sarah's laugh was silent, but no less joyful, chasing chickens around the yard. Lord Fluffington tolerated them with regal patience. Liam sat beside Eleanor, taking her hand. "What are you thinking about?" "How different everything is. 5 years ago, I was in a courtroom facing down my past. Now I'm here watching our daughter play with a child I'm helping to teach. It feels like a different lifetime." "It is a different lifetime. We built it ourselves." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "Do you ever think about that night, the blizzard?" "Sometimes, usually when there's a storm." "Do you regret opening the door?" Liam turned to look at her fully. "Not once, not even for a second. Opening that door gave me everything you hope this life. How could I regret that? We almost died so many times. On the mountain with Blackwood's men during the trial. Any one of those moments could have ended differently. But they didn't. We survived. We fought for this." Eleanor watched Hope chase after a chicken, her laugh bright and clear. "She'll never know what we went through to get here." "Good. Let her grow up happy and safe. That's the whole point. When she's older, should we tell her? Someday. When she's ready. We'll tell her about surviving impossible things. About choosing courage over fear. About building something from nothing." Liam pulled Eleanor closer. We'll tell her that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. That's a lesson worth learning. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Eleanor leaned against Liam, feeling the weight of his arm around her shoulders, the warmth of his presence. Hope ran over, climbing into Eleanor's lap, tired from playing. "Mama, tell me a story," Hope said. "What kind of story?" "A happy one." Eleanor kissed the top of her daughter's head. Once upon a time, there was a terrible storm, and in that storm, a woman knocked on a door. She was cold and scared and didn't know if anyone would answer. But someone did, and that choice, that one moment of kindness, changed everything. "Did they live happily ever after?" Hope asked. Eleanor looked at Liam, at their home, at the land they'd built with their own hands. She looked at Sarah and her family walking across the field to join them for dinner. She looked at the sunset painting the sky, at the chickens settling in for the night, at the life they'd created from nothing but determination and hope. "Yes," Eleanor said softly. "They did. They really did." And it was true. Not because their life was easy or perfect or without challenges, but because they'd chosen each other, because they'd fought for each other, because they'd refused to let cruelty and darkness win. The blizzard had tried to kill her. Blackwood had tried to destroy her. Fear had tried to break her. But Eleanor had survived them all. More than survived, she'd built a life worth surviving for. A life filled with purpose and love, and the kind of happiness that came from knowing you'd earned every single moment of it. That night, after Hope was asleep and the house was quiet, Eleanor stood by the window watching the stars. Liam came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For opening the door, for seeing me as more than damaged goods, for fighting for us, for building this life with me. Thank you for knocking, for choosing to survive, for trusting me enough to stay." Eleanor turned in his arms. "I love you, Liam O'Connell." "I love you too, Eleanor O'Connell." They stood together in the darkness, two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and built the best possible life. Two survivors who'd become partners. Two strangers who'd become everything to each other. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees they'd planted. Inside, Hope slept peacefully, dreaming safe dreams in a home built on courage and stubbornly maintained hope. And on the porch, two chickens, Martha and Beatrice, settled in next to Lord Fluffington, all of them content and safe. Eleanor had knocked on a stranger's door during a blizzard, and that door, that single act of opening it, had led to this, to love, to family, to a future neither of them could have imagined, but both had built together one day at a time, one choice at a time. Some fires needed to burn so new things could grow. Some doors needed to open so lost people could find their way home. And sometimes the worst storm you'd ever faced was actually the beginning of the most beautiful journey you'd ever take. Eleanor knew that now. Knew it in her bones, in her heart, in every moment of peace she'd earned. The blizzard hadn't destroyed her. It had delivered her to exactly where she needed to be. And that made all the difference.